So expect some trouble for Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's going to fall back and collapse back down from there, but I think 25.5 is my short-term price target. And then after that, if it can get through 25.5, you have a good shot at going to about 28 to 30,000.
In today's video, Gareth Soloway analyzes what Bitcoin will do next, and why he is concerned about what may happen. Gareth Soloway, an experienced trader, joins us today to discuss Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, altcoins, and more. Gareth has been a pro trader for more than 20 years. He devoted his early professional years to the study of technical charts. He developed his own trading strategies using his own money, including the confirmation signal, three-tail theory, river theory, cycle analysis, and a keen sense of market mood and timing. Make a comment. Subscribe and give your like in the video. See you soon.
So it's been a wild road. One of the things, I'm a little different from most crypto people because I screw up with stocks, right? So I still do a ton of stocks, but what that enabled me to do is I started in the late 90s when the .com bubble was like, the crazy moves. And it was so interesting because it was like the beginning of my career, and it was like deja vu in 2021 when you had some of these Dogecoin moves and stuff like that, because I'm like, wait a minute, I remember that happening exactly with like .com, like pets.com, like these weird random .com companies. And so I started to be a little bit more nervous. I'm like, this is exactly like a bubble. And ultimately, we know what happens when bubbles collapse. Everything gets demolished like we've seen. So that was really it. And yeah, I mean, Bitcoin has had a big fall. I still remember last year in Dubai at the blockchain summit, I was the least popular guy there because I was warning people. I was like, Bitcoin's going to collapse. Be ready. It's going to 20,000. And of course, no one wanted to talk to me. I still remember presenting, and there was like a gasp when I said that, because everyone was like, oh, it's 100,000 by the end of November, right? But yeah, fascinating stuff to watch. And it's the biggest thing to understand, and this goes for everything, commodities, crypto, stocks, is that when you're trading anything, you're not trading like Ethereum per se, you're trading humans, human emotion, right? So greed and fear, right? The two most carnal, emotional drivers of the human race, that's what rules price. So what we have here, and again, this is the beauty of it, right, is that it's no coincidence that Bitcoin found a bottom right around that 2017 high. Technically speaking, that is a major retrace. Basically, you had the breakout right here, and then the big long up and downs, and then we came back to settle in. So in the short term, that was support. It was kind of one of those easier calls for me to say, yeah, it's going to bounce. Even in spite of what happened to Voyager and Celsius with the bankruptcies, it's still, there was so much negativity that it's hard for me when there's that much negativity to not be slightly positive and bullish. I've just trained my mind to start kind of being a contrarian. So what we've seen here is this kind of choppy sideways action, slowly moving up. I'll show you the coolest chart here. So if we bring up a parallel channel and we just connect the recent lows, I want to show you what happens. If we extend that up, you basically connect the recent highs right here, right? High pivot right to here. And what that tells you is that right around 25,000, you're going to start running into a little bit of resistance, 25,000, 25.5. And interestingly enough, if you look at the Terra Luna collapse low, that happens to be right up in that same range. So expect some trouble for Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's going to fall back and collapse back down from there, but I think 25.5 is my short-term price target. And then after that, if it can get through 25.5, you have a good shot at going to about 28 to 30,000. But what happens the reason why this is now resistance is because psychologically back then you had a lot of people buying, right? That's when you go sideways, it tells you there's an equal amount of buyers and sellers. So there are a lot of new buyers that were kind of taking a stab right here, and it broke down. So all those people are underwater in their trade. And the reason why it's resistance is when the price comes back to that level, those people are finally like, thank goodness, I'm break even. Thank goodness, now sell. I'm just done with this and I'm going to get out, right? And that's why, so that selling pressure should come out there. So the bottom line is I am still bullish on Bitcoin near term, but I expect 25.5 to be resistance. If it can get through that, 28,000, 30,000 is kind of my upside secondary target there. So yeah, it's fun stuff. I mean, I love charting. I love being able to kind of look at things from a psychological aspect. about reading the human emotion. And it's amazing how you start, if you think about that and you look back when we were at 68,000 and the bullish sentiment was so pervasive, like think about now saying, wait a minute, now that I know emotion and you go the opposite, maybe I shouldn't have been long at 68,000. It was a good indicator it might have been topping out. The Fed absolutely has an impact. One of the things that I always say to crypto traders is, remember, when you're in crypto, it's not an isolated bubble. You need to know what the Fed's doing. You need to watch the dollar. Even the stock market, we know that Bitcoin has followed the NASDAQ very closely in terms of technology because it's a risk-on asset. So when it goes to the Fed just recently raised by 75 basis points. The key here is understanding what their outlook is after that. So going into this, everyone knew they were going to raise 75. I saw it everywhere on Twitter and people were right. The question was, and the reason why we've seen a continued rally is because the statement afterwards, when Jerome Powell did his press conference, was very dovish. He basically admitted that they were almost done hiking. Well, if they're almost done hiking, that means a more lenient Fed, which means more money in the system, which is a positive for Bitcoin. More money can go into Bitcoin and you can see it go up. So shorter term, I would say over the next couple, like the next month or so, I'm bullish on that aspect. Now, you asked me about 6 to 12 months out. This is the kicker, and this is what I'm really fearful about. And one of the reasons why I still think we have one more leg down on Bitcoin. And it is that Bitcoin is still a risk asset. If the NASDAQ collapses, if the S&P collapses, I think, again, Bitcoin has one more leg down to probably around 12 to 13,000. So my 6 to 12 month target is one more leg lower, then a bottom is put in. And then I think the next great bull run starts probably in late 2023. And then again, you're looking at easy 100,000, maybe above. So this is the worst case scenario, right? And this is the one that has Bitcoin going down maybe as low as 3,500, but let's hopefully, try not to talk about it too much. But basically, if you look at the dot-com bubble, which the similarities are eerie, like for instance, just a couple similarities. When Bitcoin was topping out last year, we had this February, it was known as the crypto Super Bowl. We had so many crypto Super Bowl ads. If you go back to the dot-com era, just before the collapse, it was known as the dot-com Super Bowl. All these things. The market caps, 3.1 trillion at the highs for Bitcoin and crypto, 2.9 trillion for dot-coms. The same sort of things are replicating. And the reason I bring that up is that if Amazon was $112 stock back then, it collapsed to about $6 during the dot-com bubble. Then it went to 3,500. So think about the X times from $6 to 3,500. If Bitcoin drops that amount, it puts it at about the 3,500 marker. So that would be a worst case scenario. I don't think anyone wants to see that, but that would be the absolute washout of the crypto space, which I think you would agree, Austin, is you almost need to see some sort of washout, because how does a space work with 20,000 cryptocurrencies? I just don't know. It just seems like too much for me. I think 12, 13,000 we'll see, but you might be right. And I kind of hope it's not, but I mean, if that's what it takes to clean out the junk, think about the Darwinian thought process of like the strong survive. That's the healthiest thing. So a lot of crypto traders are like, oh my goodness, I hope that doesn't happen. But if you really believe in crypto, the long term of crypto, that's the healthiest thing to happen. Because I mean, look at Amazon, look at Google. I mean, all these companies were around right around that time frame. You had to get rid of the junk so that those could become multi-trillion-dollar companies. I would say, again, probably bottoming in the next 6 to 12 months. And then I think you kind of repeat what you did in 2017, which is you'll have this choppy sideways time for like 6 months, and then you'll start your incline. So I think by 2024, you should be hitting that new all-time high zone. I know it's not what people want to hear. They want to hear it's instantaneous, but let it breathe, let it kind of get some energy back, and then we'll all be rewarded later on. So I happen to be a believer in gold right now. I think long-term Bitcoin far outperforms gold, but you can't deny the fact that if you go back to the beginning of this year, gold is the best performing between Bitcoin and the stock market. It's been the safest place to go. And I also think that because of the uncertainty about regulation with crypto, it's keeping a lot of money out. And so I think the safest play, if you're like, hey, listen, I want to put my money someplace, I might only earn 5 or 10% on it in a year, but that would be gold for now. I think it's the safest place. Eventually, I think Bitcoin outperforms, but it's going to take this bear market to be over.